it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Welcome back, everybody. Time for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. Phone lines are open at 971-533-7111. Did you enjoy that first half hour of the show? Did it sound a little weird? If you're listening on the podcast, that's because when I started the show live today, I forgot to push record. So I have re-recorded the show, at least the first half hour of the show, after this hour. So now I'm in this weird time loop where right now when I'm talking to you, I'm talking about what I said in the past, which is going to actually be something I will say in the future. And by the time you hear all this, all of it will be in the past. Mind blown, man. Welcome to Hour 2. Our phone lines are open at 971-533-7111. And I want to just follow up on the rant from Hour 1. I hope people don't misunderstand me in thinking that I'm somehow for these breathalyzers. Oh, no. No. I'm against drug testing in all its forms. All drug testing. All of it. I'm against breathalyzers for alcohol DUIs. I am against drug testing airline pilots. I'm against it all. I think it's a gross violation of our privacy, our decency, and our constitutional rights. Our Fourth Amendment right against search and seizure, and our Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. So I'm against all drug testing. I'm not for these roadside breathalyzers or saliva swabs or whatever technology they come up with. I'm just giving it to you from a rhetorician's point of view, someone who's got to argue this kind of stuff for a living, and we're kind of getting ourselves stuck, kind of painted into a corner in a couple ways, rhetorically speaking. Number one, we get painted into the corner of appearing to want special rights. Because, we kept saying, treat it like alcohol, tax and regulate it like alcohol. And so now the public's like, okay, well, alcohol, we know how we deal with alcohol. Well, we have breathalyzers for DUIs. So where's the treat it like alcohol for marijuana? And that puts us in the position of going, oh, well, yeah, treat it like alcohol, except, and now we look like we're asking for special rights. Now, we deserve those special rights. Marijuana ain't alcohol. It's far safer. And it doesn't impair us in the same way. We know the science. We know the reality. I'm just giving you the point of view of how we have to carefully craft our arguments. We're kind of stepping through minefields here when we're dealing with marijuana and driving. You also have to worry about making these arguments that, well, we are not impaired, right? Because an alcoholic can make an argument that they're not impaired at 0.08 as well. And some alcoholics are actually better drivers with alcohol in them because they don't get the shakes like they do when they're sober, right? So we run the risk of being in this position of saying, well, yeah, but we can smoke and drive. We can smoke and then get right behind the wheel of a car. And that looks as if we're promoting irresponsibility. So right now we're kind of in a good spot because the technologies are unproven and unscientific, and we can easily say, this isn't proven, it's unscientific, you're catching people who aren't impaired. That's easy. That's an easy argument now. It's not going to be an easy argument in a couple years. This technology is going to develop quickly because there's a huge demand for it. And there's all of these police departments and sheriff's offices and state police that have plenty of budget for these kind of things. So it's going to get developed. They're going to come up with these drug testers that can tell whether or not you used a drug within the past 2 hours. And then we're stuck with, well, drinkers have to wait 2 hours before they drive. Pretty much. If they're above 0.08, you got to wait a couple hours before you're sober, right? We can't expect the same of drug users. And then again, we'll be stuck in that position of looking like we're asking for special rights, which we deserve. I'm just saying, it's going to be a tough argument. Hey, when we come back from break, we got a new poll on Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders race. We have got an interesting job position for a...
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
For a cannabis critic, and I need to watch my time cues. Be right back.
Legal to listen to all over the world. We're just not sure about France. CannabisRadio.com.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be. The Vuber way.
Doc Rob, the concierge for better living.
Cannabis is just one of the many great plants that we have on this planet called Earth that we can use consciously and intelligently to improve our well-being.
Take a real, raw, inside look at healthier living while sharing great ideas and improvements for a better quality of life.
Learning to live and live well is a lifelong process. This is a journey. You could be 80 years old or 8 years old. You can still learn something that's going to make tomorrow a little bit healthier, a little bit easier, a little bit happier, a little bit better.
The concierge for better living with Doc Rob. Only on CannabisRadio.com.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Carson doesn't believe in the Geneva Convention.
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
Coming soon to a city near you, Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. Get all your cannabis accounting, legal, and compliance questions answered by their knowledgeable panel of industry experts who want to help your cannabis business boom. Whether you're a grower, dispensary operator, or a newcomer to the field, your cannabis business needs Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. For information on upcoming events, visit CannabisFinanceBootCamp.com. Marijuana smokers are some of the most creative engineers in the world. Now that marijuana is becoming legal, we're moving past homemade creations of necessity and into professionally designed products for the cannabis consumer. We take a look at some of today's hottest products in our paraphernalia parade.
Welcome back, everybody. 9 after the hour now, and it's no secret here at the Russ Belville Show that we are feeling the burn. Pretty excited at the potential of a major party candidate who promises to remove marijuana from the federal drug schedules. And now you can feel the burn when you feel the burn. These products are huge. The entrepreneurs at BerniePapers.com have come up with one version of, my apologies. The entrepreneurs at BerniePapers.com have come up with Bernie Sanders marijuana rolling papers. They come emblazoned with the Bernie 2016 campaign logo on the front and a Feel the Burn caricature on the back of the king-size pack. Each pack is $4.99, and large quantity discounts are available. The site even provides a link to donate to Bernie Sanders' campaign. Again, the website's BerniePapers.com. But maybe you're more of a glass aficionado than a joint roller. Well, no problem. Portland, Oregon's Ariel Zimmern has got you covered. High Times reported on her white ceramic pipes that she's been marketing as burners for Bernie. She's selling the pipes for $60 and chillums for $30. They are emblazoned with the campaign logo, and she sells them through her website and is donating 10% of the proceeds to the Bernie Sanders campaign. Or at least she was donating 10% to the campaign. The items sold so well that she's maxed out the personal $2,700 donation limit to presidential campaigns by law, which means she sold at least $27,000 worth of those pipes. So now your Burners for Bernie purchases help fund charities that support women in STEM and the arts. And STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math degrees. So whether you get the papers or you get the pipes, well, you're going to need some flame. And fortunately, Bernie Lighters over at Etsy has got you covered. You can pick up a 3-pack featuring a blue Feel the Burn lighter, a flaming angry Feel the Burn lighter, and an American flag with a buff Bernie Photoshop lighter, all 3 for just $12. Now you're feeling it, but you can't go dirtying up the planet by leaving your ashes everywhere. That's where Piccadilly Woods on Etsy comes in, with the Bernie Sanders ashtray available for only $8. Now, are these things legal? Well, probably not. The Center for Public Integrity wrote that, quote, attorneys say entrepreneurs open themselves to risk by using candidates' names, likenesses, or logos, especially when promising to donate a specific portion of their sales, end quote. But when Ariel Zimmern is sending your campaign the maximum $2,700 political donation, do you think Bernie's lawyers are going to go after her for appropriating his trademark? Who's going to pass up the priceless word-of-mouth advertising for their candidate, even if it is among cannabis consumers passing a joint or a pipe around? But come to think of it, Tokers may be just the audience of diehard supporters you most want to be reminded constantly of an upcoming election. Ken Gross, a political law expert, told the Center for Public Integrity, quote, I can't imagine the campaign going against them. They're supporters. They don't want to turn them off, end quote. Now, whether Bernie Sanders wins the nomination or not, you win with these unique political keepsakes. If you need any of the websites to order any of these products, you can find them on my latest post on marijuanapolitics.com in the, I think it's in the culture section, could be in the politics section. Bernie Sanders marijuana smoking accessories are a huge hit. Check that out. Get it? Huge hit. It's a pun. So let me move on. Speaking of Bernie Sanders, because we are feeling the burn here at the Russ Belville Show, I've got a new article up on Huffington Post concerning Bernie Sanders, who was recently taken to task by the New York Daily News. And this has been floating around in my Facebook feed from all my Hillary supporting fans who are saying he had a disaster. It was a disastrous interview. He showed that he's out of his depth. He doesn't know what he's doing. And so I wrote up a take on that because it was really kind of a hit piece by the New York Daily News. They seem to be in the tank for Hillary. And just kind of attacking Bernie for having broad visionary plans and not knowing all the minutia of how to accomplish those broad visions. So I wrote a piece up that imagined what it would have been like if the New York Daily News interviewed President Kennedy when he said we were going to go to the moon by the end of the decade. Yeah, but how are we going to go to the moon? How do you get a landing capsule on the moon? How are you going to... Like, Kennedy didn't know all the details of that either. See, folks, when you're a leader, you have vision. You have a vision that you want to accomplish, and you rally people behind you, and you get the smartest minds behind you, and you work out how you're going to accomplish the vision. That is the problem I think we've had with too many of our elected officials, is them being policy wonk types that want to get into all the minutiae and details without first establishing the vision and getting the people behind that vision. Once you've got the people behind your vision, you can accomplish anything in the minutiae. But if you're only concentrating on the minutiae and don't get the backing of the people behind it, you end up with half-hearted compromises like this Affordable Care Act and other pieces of legislation we've seen over the past 10, 20 years. Anyway, let's take a look at this poll since we were speaking about Bernie Sanders. Latest poll being reported on by McClatchy says that 25% of Sanders voters would shun Clinton, saying that if Hillary Clinton wins the primaries, 1 out of 4 Bernie Sanders supporters would not vote for Hillary Clinton in the general election. 69% say they would. So there's another, 6% that are unsure what the hell they'll do. By comparison, Clinton supporters, only 14% of Clinton supporters wouldn't vote for Bernie. 79% would. Well, yeah, because the Clinton supporters would finally have the chance to vote for an honest Democratic politician for once. Someone who actually espouses consistent principles. Of course they would vote for Bernie. This does not bode well for Hillary Clinton. To know that 1 out of 4 of her opponent's supporters are gone. She does not get those votes. And I'm one of them. I will not enable Hillary Clinton in any way whatsoever. I don't care who she's running against. She does not get my vote. The other guy doesn't get my vote either. Not voting for Cruz or Trump or Kasich or any of those guys. But I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. Interesting also in this poll is the second poll I've seen recently that shows Sanders ahead of Hillary Clinton nationally. It's a 49-47, so within margins of error, but 49-47, second time I've heard it. And the problem here is that she cannot connect with younger people. She has most of her support among non-whites, Democrats, women, and older folks, people over 45. Sanders leads 76-23 among people 29 and younger, people under 30, leads 63-31 among Latinos, leads 62-32 among independents, leads 58-38 among unmarried people, and leads 56-42 among liberals. On the other hand, Clinton is leading 65-29 for people 60 and older, 61-35 among African Americans, 57-39 among the married, and 53-43 among Democrats. Of course, Bernie Sanders won the Wisconsin election last night. He's won 7 out of the last 8 contests. But of course, we're leading into Wyoming. He'll probably win that as well with numbers around 70 to 80%. He'll come in with 8 out of the 9 past wins as we move into New York and the rest of the mid-Atlantic Tuesday states. And that will pretty much be it as far as the big votes until California. It doesn't look good for Bernie in the polling when it comes to New York, which is Hillary Clinton. She was a senator from New York. And the rest of the mid-Atlantic states might be tough for him with their large African-American populations that tend to support Hillary Clinton. But the numbers we've seen lately have shown Bernie Sanders eroding that African-American support from Hillary Clinton. People are starting to hear more about Bernie and to understand more about his consistency and his principle. And now with the leaking of these Panama Papers, that's the latest thing that I think is going to start to blow up in Hillary Clinton's face as more and more of this greater than terabyte data dump gets picked through when we start to see whose fingerprints and whose corporations and whose governments have been colluding with one another. We are going to see more of this fallout, and it can only hamper the campaign of Hillary Clinton, who is so tied with that Clinton Foundation. And the very name Clinton evokes shady fundraising. I mean, we go back to the renting out the Lincoln bedroom during Bill Clinton's presidency. That can only hurt Hillary Clinton and only help Bernie Sanders. And as Bernie wins more states and does competitively well in the swing states, and as the Democratic Party recognizes they're going to lose the youth vote if they nominate Hillary, we may go to the Democratic Convention with a serious contest, despite who gets how many delegates in the elections.
What is the main food that penguins eat? Spam?
But I don't like spam. Hey, folks, it's 4:20 here in the West Coast, and we're going to remind you that coming up at the top of the hour here on CannabisRadio.com, Stoner Jesus is coming to you live and direct from Stoner Heaven. And then at 6 o'clock, the latest episode of the Tommy Chong podcast, exclusively here on CannabisRadio.com. I got to get to a safety briefing. Be right back in 2 minutes.
Being green is good. Growing green is good. Making green is great. CannabisRadio.com.
Great websites today need expert web design and development and need to be e-commerce ready and mobile friendly. But building a marketable and profitable website can be an uphill climb. Ready to make your new website or replace your existing website? Think Orange as the new way to get in the black. Orange Hill Development works with Fortune 500 companies and offer the same top quality development service at a fraction of what other providers charge. Brands like Absolute, Carlsberg, and Nestea trust Orange Hill Development. Find out why you should trust your website with Orange Hill. Contact Orange Hill for a consultation today at orangehilldevelopment.com.
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks may be far less than those posed by legal drugs. This is the Russ Belville Show, annoying Kevin Sabet since 2012.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPA's offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit neweracpas.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the new era.
And blue blasten Gergen, Pfaffen der Blasten, Schnurb Norben. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Thank you so much, Dan Michaels. Welcome back, everyone. 23 after the hour. Want to thank Bub out there in the chat room who's just bought some Bernie papers at BerniePapers.com. And for our loyal listeners out there, if you end up buying stuff that you hear about on my show, do me a favor and let them know that. Like if they got a comments field or anything that you can fill in, say, I heard about this on the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com. Because we want to hit those guys up for advertising and sponsorships, right? The reason this podcast comes to you free, 2 hours of content every day, free, the freshest marijuana news and the most insightful marijuana opinions. Free, 2 hours every day, is because of our advertisers and our sponsors and our VIP listeners. So please help us help you. When you buy something you hear off this show, let those advertisers know where you heard it. Thanks. Appreciate it. And speaking of the VIP thing, there will be a radical redesign of RadicalRuss.com coming up. I haven't reposted there since February because I really desperately need to redesign the whole setup so it's less blog, more podcast, and tie it in with Cannabis Radio. So I'll be getting to work on a redesign of that. And when I do, the VIP section will be back. All the existing 420 radio VIPs will be grandfathered in. You'll be new Radical Russ VIPs. And then we'll set up a whole new system, and there'll be all sorts of new exclusive content available only there through RadicalRuss.com. So stay tuned for that. All right, so let me get to this story. The headline, you ever read one of those headlines where you do a double take, you got to read it like 2 or 3 times and go, wait, what? And then you finally realize, no, that is what they said. So this is the headline at Time magazine. Their news feed from Colorado reads, "Just don't inhale. Newspaper seeks cannabis reporter who can pass drug test." Like what? Who can pass drug test? A cannabis reporter who can pass a drug test. It's exactly the opposite of how I got my job here at CannabisRadio.com. It's like you have to be able to fail a drug test here. It's like, I'm sorry, son, your nanograms per milliliter only came up at 9. I'm afraid we have a threshold of 10 here. No, I'm joking, but really, a cannabis reporter who can pass a drug test. This is the job notice that was passed on the Cannabis, posted on the Cannabis, right? That's the Denver Post's marijuana-themed news organization, the Cannabis. And on their job notice, it says that they're seeking a journalist to produce stories on legalization across U.S. and Canada, on the business of growing and selling pot, pot-rooted recipes, game reviews, gear reviews, data journalism, self-created visuals, maps, charts, graphs. However, as with every Denver Post position, a qualified candidate must successfully pass a drug test. End quote. See, I'm reading this and I'm going, well, this job is my job. It's exactly what I do. Right down to the data journalism part, graphs, charts, maps, that's me, man. But pass a drug test? I'm just wondering, what? I'm not saying that you'd have to be a pot smoker to be a good cannabis journalist. Just like I'm not saying you'd have to be black to report on Black Lives Matter. But, you know what I'm saying? Does it seem a little off to you, man, that somebody who could pass a drug test? Now, of course, there's a difference. There's a huge difference in that you could just not smoke pot for a little while, pass the drug test, get the job, and then after you got the job, smoke your face off. But and I don't know the Denver Post protocols. I don't know their program. Don't know their regulations. But most of these places, when you have a pre-employment drug test, they also have random drug testing possible, or they have for-cause accident drug testing, right? This is what happened to our friend Sid Maurer, who writes for marijuanapolitics.com, where she apparently passed a pre-employment drug test to work at a news station, but when she got into a fender bender, that was the for-cause that they had to be able to drug test her, and then she lost her job, lost her career. So I imagine the Denver Post must be similar, right? Maybe they're not randomly drug testing, but your marijuana reporter is on his scooter on the way to do a dispensary review, gets into a fender bender, and now there's a drug test, and that reporter loses his job. So I don't know. I don't know about this. There's going to have to be some point, especially in Colorado and these other legal states, where the parent companies, and that's really what I believe this is all about, right? Like, I think if you actually asked the editors that are working at the Denver Post who they'd want and whether they'd want a drug test, I bet they probably wouldn't want to drug test. But it's probably corporate. It's probably their corporate overlords have some insurance policy that mandates they have to do drug testing, and so they do. And so everybody just goes along with it. But there's going to come a time when some of these companies are going to have to recognize that you're not going to get quality people if you maintain these 20th century policies. You're not going to get it. I covered that rant by Christine Tatum. You know her. She's Dr. Christian Thurstone's wife, and they are like the Project Sam type people out there in Colorado. And she wrote this angry rant on Facebook once about how she went to a Lowe's home improvement warehouse, right? She went to a Lowe's, and there was this huge line at the cashier. 7, 8 people in line. And the other cashier station's unmanned. Right? So one cashier to process all these people. Everybody waiting in line. Long time. Everybody getting kind of upset about it. And so when Christine gets a chance to speak to a manager there about this lousy customer service, the manager points out that, well, since the legalization of marijuana in Colorado, we can't find enough workers who can pass the drug test. So the problem, of course, isn't the drug test, right? It's that Colorado legalized, damn it. The problem isn't that we're trying to evaluate the quality of workers based on their piss. No, that's not the problem. It's legalization. We need to go back to throwing people in jail. So, yeah, Lowe's said that the Lowe's manager at the time said, well, we just can't find enough people, lower customer service. And so Christine railed about this. Legalization's ruining her pristine Lowe's shopping experience. And she said, though, that she'd accept it because Lowe's had the sense not to hire potheads that wouldn't trust them with the bandsaw or the forklift or even cleaning the toilets or presumably running the cash registers. Okay, go ahead, have your lousy service. Let these companies lose some profit. Let their competitors who don't drug test do better than them. And eventually they'll come around. They'll start to realize, you know what? Trying to find out whether the guy pushing the buttons on the cash register, running a little scanner there, whether or not he smoked pot is not really the top of our corporate ideals right now. maybe that'll start to take effect after they time after time can't get employees because they're failing for marijuana. This is why I, as loathsome as it can be in many respects, I do have a belief that American capitalism is doing more to open up our freedoms, to bring about legalization, than all of the talk we had ever put together about how it was wrong or how it's medicine. No, now that we've unleashed the profit motive, that's what's going to cause a lot of these things to start to change. The drug testing for employees, that's got to change if these companies want to continue to have great customer service, if they want to continue to have good workers. But it's weird, the growing pains that we get to, that we have to go through in order to get there. I have a friend who's pretty well off. Got a comma or two in the bank account, right? And this is way beyond my understanding. Once we start talking about stocks and trades and assets and net worth and liquidity, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't get it really. But folks like this, they got money. They got lots of money, but it's usually not like in money. It's not stacks of hundreds sitting around, right? It's investments in stock and other funds out there, right? So this guy I know who's got all this money tied up in a couple of different organizations just recently got a couple of letters because the organizations and the organization, one of them, Scottrade, stock trading thing, Scottrade, and the other one's Fidelity Investments. Okay. And this guy's been investing with both these places for a long time. Big accounts, lots of money. Just recently received letters saying that both of these places, Scottrade and Fidelity, are closing his accounts and basing it on, terms and conditions that, it's, like employment. They call it at-will employment. They can fire you at any time for any reason. Well, they got an at-will kind of thing in these agreements that says they can close your account for any reason. And they are. Now, they're not freezing it. He can get the money out. He just can't put new money in or store it there anymore, right? So now it's a situation where this guy could be making really good money in the stock market with these funds, with these investments. Can't anymore. Has to take it out and put it like in a bank where you don't get that kind of return, right? You just get regular return. And the whole reason behind this is because both of these places, Scottrade and Fidelity, found out that this guy had been investing in the legal marijuana business. Okay, so we're not talking about spending money to actually, grow and sell marijuana at this point. We're just talking investments in companies that may be doing that. And we're not talking about bank accounts like the federal bank accounts that are federally insured. We're talking about just investments. But again, since that comes under FinCEN, financial security and SEC and all that, anything that starts to get anywhere near a hint of a suggestion of a whiff of marijuana freaks these people out. So now this guy's got his money all tied up, millions of dollars, can't really work with it at the moment because these two companies that he's done business with for years that have made plenty of money off of these investments of his, because they get brokerage fees and all that, have now said, no, off with you and your money because you're one of those people. Or you're working with one of those people, those pot people. And that'll happen. That's going to happen for a while. But it can't happen much longer. Not as more states become legal and more rich people start investing in what is obviously one of the biggest growth investment opportunities of our lifetimes, the green rush. There'll be too many fees to be lost and too many customers going elsewhere and too many alternatives popping up. So we'll hear these stories for a while, but not in the next 10 years we won't. This stuff's going to turn around. You mark my words. There's too much money on the table for it not to. Going to take a break. Back in 2 minutes with more.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Cannabis use isn't the only thing growing. So are we. Grow with us. CannabisRadio.com.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
The smoke is rising, and the next crop of podcasts devoted to cannabis providers and enthusiasts are ready to be harvested. Welcome to the Cannabis Radio Network, founded by respected rainmakers who have been producing award-winning podcasts for over a decade. Industry headlines, business updates, medical reports, marketing, and e-commerce education rolled up perfectly for your consumption. Let's grow together. The Cannabis Radio Network. CannabisRadio.com.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
I said, on this program, what do they want? My grandchildren and the monster. Did I scare you?
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
Remember, friends, there's more to life than marijuana. I just can't remember what it is. Why'd I come in here? You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. 38 after the hour here. And this discussion about drug testing and employment leads me to another discussion that is prompted by a very interesting article I read today on Huffington Post. And it was this economist, I think it was an economist, maybe he was just a social scientist, I'm not sure. It was a very interesting article on the concept of guaranteed universal income. And it opened my mind to some concept I hadn't really considered before. First of all, the idea of guaranteed universal income is the idea that as a citizen of the country, you would get a check every month. Not welfare, not food stamp, but just income. Just by virtue of being a United States citizen, here's some money, enough money to survive on. Now, the reason this concept is being floated is because of the dynamics of what's happening in our labor markets. And we're in a situation now where technology should be replacing a lot of our labor, right? For example, McDonald's has all the technology it needs right now to be able to make self-service McDonald's kiosks. You know, like when you go to the airport and you're checking in, they got the little touch screen and you can do it all. Well, just imagine that for McDonald's. You walk into a McDonald's, you come up to a touch screen, you push Big Mac, Big Mac, Big Mac, fry, Coke, blah, blah, check, check, check. It tells you what the cost is. You put your cash in there. I mean, we've already seen automated stations at supermarkets. We're seeing those automated check-ins at airports. Why isn't there automated check-ins at McDonald's? Well, the reason why is because people need jobs. And people don't want to see their job being replaced by a robot, by a machine. And this got a big kick when that Boston Dynamics video came out on the internet a few weeks ago, the one with the bipedal robot. Did you see that one? Where they could kick the robot and it would just stumble, but it would stay standing. And if it got knocked over, it could pick itself up and it could pick up boxes and put them on shelves. And a lot of people saw that video and went, shit, there goes my job. Once you get a robot that can walk and move and climb and carry, that's a lot of people's jobs. And eventually, you're a guy that does sheetrock on construction sites, right? Part of your job is hauling these big, heavy pieces of sheetrock. Well, once you've got a robot that can carry 4 times as much sheetrock as you can, has all the balance you do, doesn't require brakes, right? Doesn't require wages. That's going to be a tough world to live in. People in the creative classes and the professional classes for a long time have ignored this. But now we're starting to see artificial intelligence be developed. Most recently, an artificial intelligence program that plays the game Go, the ancient Japanese game Go, or is it Chinese? I don't remember. Whatever. But it's one of those games, it's like even more complex than chess. Like there's more... Well, it's simpler than chess, but also more complex. I don't know how to explain it any better. But there's more permutations on a Go board than atoms in the universe. It's something ridiculous like that, math-wise. Anyway, an artificial intelligence finally beat a human player, a human grandmaster at Go. And for a long time, they've been beating chess masters now. So the artificial intelligence is going to get to the point where people in the professional classes, the creative classes, are going to lose jobs. They've already got AI software that can write hit songs that you can't tell the difference between it or something a human wrote. So the problem, the core of this problem, and it attacks the professional classes too. There was an interesting anecdote in the story about the development of this machine that's an automatic anesthesiology machine. Okay, so you go for surgery, there's a specific professional called an anesthesiologist. His only gig is to knock you out, keep you knocked out, but not too knocked out. That's his gig. That's all he does is drug you and make sure you stay asleep during surgery. And these guys are extremely well paid. They're some of the best paid medical professionals out there. Well, this company came along, and they made this machine. You hook it up to the patient, it checks the patient's vitals. It's got its own little pump for the propofol or whatever the anesthesia is that it pumps into you, and it monitors your vitals, and it can adjust the drug automatically, in some cases better than an anesthesiologist can, a human can. You ever heard of anyone using these things? Nope. The American Academy of Anesthesiologists or Society or Association or whatever the hell they are, the anesthesiologist group lobbied to kill these machines and to make sure they couldn't be used in U.S. hospitals. Now, if these machines were added to U.S. hospitals, it would cut a major chunk of healthcare cost off of most people's surgeries. But it would also cost a well-paid upper-class anesthesiologist a job. And so we don't get that technological benefit. Now, I know a lot of you listening are probably going, wait, Russ, I know you're a lefty. I know you're a union guy. You're pro-labor. How could you be talking about this in glowing terms about technology replacing work? Well, shouldn't it? Shouldn't we be developing our technologies to make it from us going from a 6-day work week to a 5-day work week, from a 40-hour week to a 30 to a 20 to having mostly leisure time where we can develop our personalities, our art, our relationships, we can enjoy the world around us and the people around us? Well, no, we don't even think in those terms because of one underlying factor that's been true since the development of human history, and that is work equals income. See, fundamentally, everything is owned. Food is owned. Water is owned. Places to sleep are owned. Everything's owned. And the mechanism by which you acquire things that are owned is money. And the mechanism by which you get money is work. So if you need to survive through eating and sleeping and wearing clothes, you need money, and therefore you need to work. And so that's why when the possibility of losing jobs and losing labor comes about through technological innovation, we freak out. If we don't work 8 hours a day, we will starve. If we don't work 8 hours a day, we'll be homeless. If we don't work 8 hours a day, we will get sick and die. That's where the universal income comes in. What happens if you no longer have to work in order to eat, wear clothes, and have a place to sleep? That there's no outward pressure forcing you to have to work. Now, you're not going to live in the lap of luxury in this universal income. We're only talking, $12,000 a year, maybe a $1,000 check a month, something like that, right? You're not going to get a ton, but you wouldn't be forced to have to work. Now, you might want to work. You might want to make more money so you can have an actual house, a real nice house instead of public housing. You might want to have a car. You might want to go on trips. You might want to buy stuff, right? So there'll be plenty of incentive to work. You just won't be forced to work. So what happens in those circumstances? Well, number one, without this overwhelming pressure to have to work at any cost, you can abandon the minimum wage. You could actually get rid of the minimum wage because people wouldn't work for too low of money. They already make enough money to live. They don't need more money. And the power of labor to then negotiate what they're going to work for is greatly increased. And we have a situation where the technological developments that come along that would replace labor would no longer be feared, would no longer be opposed. They'd be welcomed. What? You've got a way to automatically pick strawberries? You got a machine that automatically picks strawberries? Great. Now we don't have to work in the fields 14 hours a day bending over to pick strawberries. We can find something else to do to make money. Stoner Jesus is in the chat room bringing this up too about how the Milton Friedman called this a negative income tax. Yeah. And there's really interesting economic theory behind this. The idea of just automatically grant everybody enough money to be able to survive the basics. And from my point of view, I would like to see some things ameliorated. Like, I don't like seeing people standing on the sides of the freeway overpasses, desperate, haggard looking, with cardboard signs telling me how awful their life is and won't I just give them something? And I'm thinking, I give every year on April 15th. Every time I work, money is taken out. I give. I'm already giving. And I'm not exactly a rich person. Why should I be giving more? We already give our taxes to make a society. Why does that society not then take care of the people so that we don't have to give more to them when they're standing on the freeway overpass? Anyway, stuff to think about that's not necessarily marijuana related, but here at the Russ Belville Show, I always like to say that this is a show for tokers by tokers, but it's not always about toking. We have opinions on everything, and I think it's good for us to talk about other political things and to let people know that we're thinking more broadly than just our own issue of marijuana legalization. Stay tuned, because coming up at the top of the hour, 5 o'clock, we got Stoner Jesus, the aforementioned commenter. His show's coming up at 5 o'clock Pacific time. The Stoner Jesus Show, live from Stoner Heaven, to save your stony soul. Make sure you check that out. And then at 6 o'clock, The new episode of the Tommy Chong podcast here exclusively on CannabisRadio.com will be airing Wednesday night, Hump Day. It's your best day to be tuning in here on CannabisRadio.com. Also coming up in the rest of the week, we got more great guests coming up here on the Russ Belville Show. On tomorrow's show, it's our Cops Say Legalized Drugs segment. We'll have another great speaker from LEAP telling how their experience shows why we need to legalize all drugs. And then on Friday, we'll be speaking with Kevin McCormick. And then next week, we've got our regular shows on Monday and Tuesday. Monday, we've got Dr. Mitch Earlywine joining us. On Wednesday, I still have to work out the details here, but Wednesday, April 13th, we will probably, crossing my fingers, probably be coming to you live from the Moda Center, where the playoff-bound Portland Trailblazers, I believe they've clinched a playoff spot. I may be jumping ahead of myself. But the Portland Trailblazers are hosting the Denver Nuggets, and we will be there in a VIP suite for the party, Blazers versus Nugs, brought to us by 420 Games. So I'm crossing my fingers because I don't know if we'll be live there or if we'll be recording there. So stay tuned and watch my Twitter feed for more information. Then on Thursday, we'll have no show on Thursday because I will be in flight, making my way to Washington, D.C., where on Friday, I'll be reporting to you from the Students for Sensible Drug Policy National Conference in Washington, D.C. That takes place Friday and Saturday. Then on Sunday, making my way to New York City for Mark Kleiman's Cannabis Summit. Sunday and Monday, all the major reformers and major prohibitionists will be at that summit. And then the following Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from New York at the United Nations General Assembly Special Session. Stay tuned to my Twitter feed for all the details because a lot of this will be ad hoc as far as whether or not we get internet access, whether or not we can put the show together, and I'll just have to keep you posted. Stay tuned. We'll be back to close up shop and get ready for Stoner Jesus right after these 2 minutes worth of sponsor breaks.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
We don't limit how much you smoke, and we don't limit where you listen. Cannabis Radio is now on iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping ganjapreneurs grow.
It's time for cannabis facts about Alzheimer's from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A new Florida study in the journal Molecular and Cellular Neuroscience found that cannabis promotes the growth of healthy new brain tissue. It can slow the effects of Alzheimer's and may in fact be able to halt it entirely. A long-term study by Ohio State University's Professor Gary Wenk concludes that people who regularly use marijuana get Alzheimer's at a much lower rate than others. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPA's offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit neweracpas.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the New Era.
Warning, hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. 55 after the hour. Getting ready for the Stoners U, the show coming up in just 5 minutes. And we leave you with one last story coming from the International Business Times. Miley Cyrus has not smoked pot in 2 months. Woo! Yeah, but the reason why is what I want to tell you. Miley Cyrus is apparently in a relationship with her rumored fiancé, Liam Hemsworth. Liam, he's the one in the... Is he the one in the Hunger Games? And the Chris is the one that's Thor, I think. Anyway, so she's in a relationship with a boy, and he wanted her to stop smoking pot. He warned her, cut out on smoking pot or he would end their relationship. Boo! Boo, Liam Hemsworth. Boo. Calling on your girl to stop smoking pot. And worse, boo on Miley Cyrus for doing it. Miley Cyrus has vowed to change her lifestyle. According to the gossip website Radar Online, quote, she couldn't possibly be happier. This is all his doing, of course. He has also quit with her. They're allowing themselves the occasional drink in the evenings, but aside from that, all recreational drug use is gone, hopefully for good. Miley's goal is to be THC-free in a home drug test kit, and she says if she keeps up the good work, she'll be giving clear readings in a month, end quote. Ha! Oh, but the occasional drink's okay. Go ahead and have a drink. It's not as if they're doing drugs or anything. Jeez, Miley, you're doing so well for so long, and now you're promoting the drug that's more harmful. Yep, I had to quit weed, but the drinking's okay. I had to quit weed for a boy. Uh-huh. She'll be back. Mark my words, she'll be back. She's just trying to clean up her image because she's now got a gig with a Woody Allen performance, a Woody Allen movie. So yeah, we got to stop smoking pot so that the guy that married his stepdaughter wouldn't think badly of you. Okay. That's all the time we got for today, but thanks for joining us here from our beautiful perch 26 floors above the South Waterfront on the Willamette River in Portland, Oregon, looking out at Mount Hood and Mount St. Helens. I'm Radical Russ. For everyone here at CannabisRadio.com, thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant